Hello, and welcome to another episode of Biblio Files. This is the program on AADL TV, where each episode we discuss one book topic, briefly sometimes. I am Lucy, and today I am here as usual with Amanda and Christopher, and we have a special guest, Jacob. And today we are going to discuss movies or TV shows that we thought were better than the book. So, Amanda, what do you have for us?
So I'm excited by this topic, but I also feel sort of ashamed because I'm one of those people who watches all of the movie adaptations for books that I have not read. And I thought this would be an easy topic for me. And I was going through my list and I was like, oh, great movie. Oh, I didn't read the book. Didn't read the book. So I tried to pick something. And I also tried not to pick this author, but I did. I picked a Stephen King. I'm sorry. Also, you're welcome. The book and movie I wanted to talk about is Dr. Sleep. So 1977, The Shining came out, the book, and it was adapted into a movie by Stanley Kubrick. And it is historically known that Stephen King did not like the film adaptation of his book. So the book came out The Shining came out in 1977. Flash forward to 2013, and that is when the direct sequel to The Shining, the book, comes out, Dr. Sleep. It's many years later. And the movie came out in 2019. And I did not read the book until I knew the movie was coming out because I knew I wanted to read. I was deep into my Stephen King project and I wanted to read the book before I saw the movie. So I read the book, but I also knew that Ewan McGregor was going to play Danny. So in Dr. Sleep, it is a direct sequel to the book, The Shining. And it is Danny as an adult, and he is battling the demons and the trauma of his childhood and what happened to him. He's battling addiction, and he meets various people in his adult life, and there's transformation, and there's a whole thing. So the trick with the movie is that So the movie was directed and written by Mike Flanagan. And the trick with the movie was that everybody, even if you've not read The Shining or seen the movie The Shining, you have the visuals from Kubrick's film in your mind. You got at least a couple of them. You can't erase that. And so when the writer and director was putting the Dr. Sleep together, you can't erase those visuals. So he had the challenge of putting together a film that was true to the book, but also perhaps involved some of Kubrick's visuals. There was also the challenge of adapting source material that you already know that Stephen King hated the movie version of The Shining that Stanley Kubrick made. But luckily, Mike Flanagan was able to come up with a movie that combined Stanley Kubrick's visual world as well as staying pretty true to Stephen King's novel for Dr. Sleep. And he got the green light. Stephen King said, do it. And Mike Flanagan did it. And Stephen King saw it and he approved of it. Not that always, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's a lot of adaptations of a film where the author just is like, oh, they ruined my book. They ruined my book. They ruined my book. But I just thought this was a really fun example of a bit of redemption, because even though Stephen King hated the original or hated Kubrick's version of The Shining, he accepted and he felt a little bit of redemption in watching Mike Flanagan's version of the sequel of Dr. Sleep. The reason why I liked the movie better than the book, there's a little bit of, there's sluggish areas where it's harder to get through. I mean, it's still, I think it's like 650 pages. It's still quicker to get through, but the movie was just so well done. And I liked being back in the Overlook Hotel, and they recreated the sets and the scenes. So you felt like you were back there. And I liked that part of it. And I was honestly surprised that I liked the movie better than the book, but I just thought it was really well done. And I was happy that everybody was happy with, the writers and the directors and Stephen King. I just like that the crew was happy with the product. And there's a director's cut of it and there's an original theatrical release. I like the director's cut more. You can watch one or the other. They're available on streaming on Netflix. So Dr. Sleep, the film adaptation, I enjoyed better than the 2013 novel written by Stephen King. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. And if anybody has any thoughts or wants to disagree, please do it now or drop a comment below, because I want to talk about this forever. So, Jacob, what movie did you like more in the book?
So I have many different choices When considering this, I had to just come to terms with the fact that I love campy things, and that I might actually like things that are bad more than I like things that are good.
Mm-hmm.
So some honorable mentions that I have is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne. The book is incredible. Don't get me wrong. The book changed my life. Best thing I ever read. Not really. But the movie is just so much better that I wanted to bring it up. The book is just too long. And I mean, the movie is immaculate. The movie's incredible. Something else, another honorable mention I wanted to bring up is any book by Michael Crichton. Jurassic Park,
Mm-hmm.
Congo, Sphere. The movies are all better because I don't think that Michael Crichton knows that he's writing campy novels about, dinosaurs that come back to life, apes that know sign language and can communicate with other apes. I don't think he takes it awfully seriously, and the movies allow you to kind of engage with the silly parts of his hyper realistic scientific what if books. But what I'd really like to focus on is anything from the Hannibal Lecter series by Thomas Harris. Those books are god awful. They are like 500, 600 pages, minuscule font. This man really thinks that he is like the professor of professors when it comes to psychology, but it's all just really drawn out, disgusting, Freudian. Oh gosh, the books are terrible. And the books are almost him just being like, look how smart I am. Look how smart I am. The movies, I love the movies. It's weird to say this on film, but I love the character of Hannibal Lecter. And when those books are adapted to film, they edit out all of the really terrible parts from the books. The movies take you to that icky place. The books push you off the side of the icky cliff. So that's why I really appreciate the movies. Also, when those books are adapted to film, they give actors opportunities to do some like capital A acting, and that is always so fun to see. Jodie Foster, even Julianne Moore in the second movie is incredible. There's so many just wonderful roles for actors to have a little fun and get messy. Now, I do have to, because I'm a Hannibal Lecter nerd, I do have to mention that I recently watched the Hannibal Lecter prequel called Hannibal Rising, which is terrible. Burn it. But it's written by Thomas Harris, and you can definitely get that feeling from watching it. I don't know if you guys know this, but Hannibal Lecter trained to be a samurai in his late teens. So that's just to give you a little bit of the mind of Thomas Harris. Is that he thought that would make sense. So yes, Hannibal Lecter books, anything by Thomas Harris. The movies are infinitely better.
Did you approve of the television show Hannibal? I loved it.
And excuse the pun, but I ate it up with a knife and fork.
Yes. Good job.
A1 sauce. I needed a wet nap after. It was good. So yes, Christopher.
Well, this was, as Amanda said, this was very, very difficult to find a screen adaptation that I liked more than the book. Part of the problem is that I just don't have a lot of overlap, and the overlap I do have is for books that I read a long, long time ago, or for things like Frankenstein or Dracula. And so I really wanted to pick something else, something more contemporary. And I finally found something. So the 2003 movie, American Splendor, starring Paul Giamatti, is based on the early comics, and then they became graphic novels, American Splendor by Harvey Pekar, who lived in Cleveland. And I am a little behind the times. I only recently realized that he had died. And the original comics and graphic novels are great, but the movie goes to new places in filmmaking, I feel like, by bringing in the actual person, Harvey Pekar, into the movies with Paul Giamatti. who's playing Harvey Pekar. So there's this very interesting dialogue going on between real life and fictionalizing someone's life. And beyond that, the movie itself is just wonderful. It's so captivating and so interesting that it exceeded what I expected for it from reading the comics and graphic novels. So, Lucy, what did you pick?
So I picked a TV show, which is Big Little Lies. And there's a couple reasons why I thought the TV show was better than the book. First of all, the TV show was amazing. But number one is the cast. Like the cast in the TV show of Big Little Lies is so strong. Nicole Kidman was at the top of her game. Alexander Skarsgård plays a really creepy dude in that, and I don't think I'll ever be able to watch him in the same way. Reese Witherspoon was perfectly cast. I think she did a good job being that sort of annoying character, but she was able to show what was under the facade. But number one is Laura Dern as a character of Renata. And Renata didn't have a big part in the book at all. And I thought Laura Dern just stole the show as Renata. So that's one reason why I liked the show better. I also liked the setting better. The book is set in Sydney, Australia. The show is set in Monterey Beach, California, and it's much more extravagant and glamorous. And there was something really fun and beautiful about seeing that on screen. The show also was strong enough, the cast was strong enough to carry this source material, to carry the show beyond the source material and go into that second season. And feel was in the book as much was this message of women supporting women. And one of the reasons is that you get more of a backstory of why someone does this final act. I'm trying not to spoil too much, but in the book, you get much more of a backstory. And so it seems like more of an individualistic act, whereas in the movie, you don't get that backstory so much. And so it seems like these women are all together protecting each other. And I appreciated that about the show. So those are some of the reasons why I liked the show Big Little Lies better than the book. Yeah. And does anyone else have any thoughts about that or anything else we've talked about or other adaptations?
Good choice, Lucy. I agree so wholeheartedly. And Laura Dern, I could watch her.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. In that show, she just I just didn't even know she had that in her. So
yeah.
She's on fire. Whatever she does, she just puts Laura Dern on it like 1,000%. And
yeah.
So I'm glad you chose that to talk about today, Lucy. I was wondering if you were going to pick that. So this topic, we've really touched upon like film adaptations of movies off and on throughout like the year plus of doing this show. And that's how we started, was talking about adaptations that we liked. So I'm glad it keeps creeping up in our conversations. I'm glad we were able to focus on that today to hear a few more titles.
Yeah. And we would love to hear from you, our viewers, as usual, if there are any screen adaptations that you thought were better than the book. We always want to know what you're watching, what you're reading. So leave us a comment below. And thanks for joining us for this episode of Bibliophiles.